Hello model railway fans, and welcome back to my channel. I'm the Novice Railway Modeller, and as you will have seen in my first 5 videos, I'm learning how to build a model railway for the very first time at the tender age of 59. So 5 episodes in, going for my 6th episode now, and this is going to be about me laying what should be something straightforward, laying the straight tracks in the fiddle yard on the south side of the layout. Each length of track is around 12 feet, 3.5 meters, and I've got 6 of them to lay. And they're going to be laid on 6 individual baseboards that will bolt together. And I'm going to join each baseboard with the rails using these Model Tech rail aligners. Have any of you ever used them? I thought I'd give them a go. I saw them out on YouTube and thought they could be just perfect for what I need. But they're not cheap. £10 a pack for 4 sets, and I need 24 for this south side baseboard. So before you know where you are, you're up to £60 worth of rail joiners. I do talk about money quite a bit, about the costs of this hobby, because it is expensive. All hobbies tend to be expensive, but the prices the costs soon rack up. Anyway, let's see how I get on in building most of this fiddle yard. Okay, so let's look at these Model Tech rail aligners in a bit more detail. And just looking at the back, I think they were designed by a guy called Guion, if I pronounce his name correctly, Guion Rhys Davies. So he came up with this design, which I think is quite unique. I'll put them down so you can see them. So Guion Rhys Davies designed these. And I think they're quite unique. There's not many of these things around, and he's selling them to a number of outlets. You can see you can buy directly from his website, or you can buy from a number of different retailers. I think there were 7 or 8 listed on his website that stock them. When I was trying to buy these, he was out of stock on his own website, and a number of those who he identified as stockists were also out of stock. But I got these from GLR Railways, these 6, and I've ordered another 6 from Railway Scenics, who I also buy quite a bit of other items from. So there's another 6 on the way. I think I said in my last video, in the last clip, that these are £10 each for 4. So let's have a look at them as we open them up. So they come in recyclable packaging, and they're stuck back to the back together, and they're I don't know if you can quite make out, but there are some kind of elastic type of rubber bands around them, so you just need to take those off and get rid of that. And on the back that was stuck to the card is some glue, so you need to get rid of that, because if that doesn't allow you to align things properly when you get those on your baseboards. And the way that they work is quite simple, quite universal and interlock. They just interlock, so you can see there, this is one rail coming together, another rail. So if this were line here, still a bit of glue on there, you can tell because it's sticking. So if this was the baseboard line here, that would come up to there, this one would come up to there, and they would join on the line. And then obviously when you take your baseboards apart, these would just come apart. But when you put them back together, they make sure that they perfectly align, so you haven't got a mismatch in your rail. And what you do, you get your rails and you solder your rails onto these rail aligners. They're very solid. I'm not sure what they're made out of, but they've certainly got some either copper or nickel on here for you to do solder. But what's the best way to solder these to your track? So I've seen some people cut the sleepers out, so you need to cut 6 sleepers out for the both sets, and then people solder them on and then cut the rails afterwards. or I've seen some people take the track, cut 3 sleepers off the end and then solder that to the ends and then put the ends together. Now if it's straight track, I think that's straightforward to do. I've got flexi-track, so it can move, and the challenge that I've got on here is that some of my flexi-track is coming from a curve, so some of the joints are actually on a curve, and the way I've done it is actually just angled the rail joiner across the curve, because I don't know any other way of doing it, but maybe you guys do, of maybe adjusting this so that you didn't have it coming on a curve. You could have it like that, but I'm not sure how that would work. So you have to have one side that would overhang the line and the other side which would overhang the other way around. So it would overhang slightly, which means if you're transporting it around, I think there's a risk of knocking it, but I'm not transporting mine around. Mine's generally staying in position. The only way it will be undone is if I've got a problem with one of the boards and have to take it out, and if I have to take it out and put it back, I'll only be doing it on an isolated case, so having them overhanging slightly is not going to be a problem for me. So this is the point, the tracks coming out of the six tracks coming out the points. So this is track number 3, which is, this has already been soldered together, which is going to bend like that, but obviously I just need to fix a nail in there to stop that point moving. So let's have a look. Little pin hammer. Now it has got these, have little holes in between to put a track pin in. So I'm going to have a go and see how we get on. It's quite a small hole, and maybe this track pin is too too thick. Let's give it a go. So that idea is not going to work at the moment. And I've just moved the track. In fact, I broke the solder off. So that's going to need re-soldering. So you can see when I try to bend the track, it's moving. So what I'm going to do is put another track pin in. I want it to be like so. But it is putting pressure on this joint here. So these really should be, these should be screwed down or glued down. That is the next thing to do actually. These should be glued down. I haven't done that. So I'm going to take them off and glue them. Here we go. So you can see the marks I've made in the underlay, just pushing those into position and heating them up actually with the solder iron. So these are tricky. Okay, so I've just added some trusty copy decks onto the track here, and also with the holes I've just used a 1.5mm drill on my vice drill, and I've just widened out those holes slightly, and then that's just big enough to allow track pins in. So rather than having to go out and buy some new track pins which are smaller than the ones I've got, then that allows me to utilise the ones I've got already. So I'm just going to put this back in. So that's now in position. I'll put the track pins in to hold that down. So I'm happy with that. I think, yeah. So that should dry. And the power, I'm not going to put some dropper wires onto this piece here because it's such a small piece, and the power's coming from the point that's wired already. So I'm not going to do that. Tell me if I'm wrong, and I should be doing that, but I'm not going to do it at this stage. So this is the piece that will join onto it. I'm going to just widen these holes on here first. So that's done that. I now need to solder these rails back on, and you can see they've moved slightly, so this is where I have to be careful. So I've now soldered those back in position, and you can see this rail is slightly short, which is fine because this one's slightly long because of the angle of the joint. So what I'm going to do is put these into position so you can get the impression of how they work. Move the pliers out of the way. Ow. And there we go. So there's the position. I'm now going to tack those down. Yeah, so this track is just sat slightly higher than this, and that's because this board isn't screwed down properly. But once it will be screwed down, it will be perfectly level. Great. So we let that dry. Now I'm going to move on to track 4. So track 4 is going to have to do something similar. So these are going to come round. Like so. It's going to bend round something like that. Okay, so I'm just going to prepare this piece of track for joining onto here that will be cut here with the Dremel. So let's try that. First of all, I'm going to cut off the webbing for the sleeper to allow a smooth join with the rail joiner and the insulated rail joiner. Take that away. Fit the insulated rail joiner. Excuse my dog. That's now in. Let's put the metal rail joiner on. Code 75. Pico track, if anyone of you are wondering. So both of those are in position. So I'm first of all going to insert it so that I can find roughly where we need to cut this track. So I've got my one of my favourite little tools, this Dremel here, Dremel 3000 with the cutting disc already attached. And the other important thing about doing and using these machines is you need a good pair of safety glasses. So I'll put those on now, because if that disc shatters, it's going to do some damage. It's much easier using a Dremel than it is track cutters, and the cut is a lot cleaner. But you can see immediately what's started to happen is the natural shape of the track, because it's not as long, as now started to point in a different direction. So that's going to have to be, we're going to have to manage that with the rail aligners. So let's put the rail aligner on first. It's going to go somewhere, something like this. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for, so we're going to have to overhang a little bit, and then the other one will come like this. We move it now. There you go. So I'm going to solder these. That's still hot, and some of you will say of course it bloody well is. So what I'm going to do next is just glue that down and tack it down in position. I'll take it out again. You can see the heat has started to melt the underlay a little bit. Take these safety glasses off. So a little bit of Copydex. You saw before I struggled to put a nail through them as they were, but that just little bit makes all the difference. So here we go. This is where I get glue on my fingers, and I can. I'm doing well. It's a first for me. Just introducing a slight bend. There we go. This should go into position now. Yeah, okay. There's a bit of messing around. The glue's going off, as you can see on this side. So yeah, let me try the next. I'm not going to show you because I'll bore you to death. So I'm going to break at that point for today and then come back tomorrow. It's time to walk my dog. Well, good morning, back on the layout again, day 2 of the week. And I'm back on to looking at what I did yesterday across these rail joiners, and I've come and looked at this last one that I did yesterday evening, and I just don't know what I've done. I mean, I've made a huge mistake. I mean, the rail joiner is not even up to the end of the board. The rails are, but the rail joiner isn't. I've made a huge mistake, so I'm going to have to take this up, desolder these to get them off. I may be able to reuse the rail joiner, but let's see. I've now removed the rail aligner from the rail, and as you can see, I'm wondering whether I can actually reuse this. I'm going to give it a go because obviously the solder is already on. I just have to reheat it, apply the rails. I'm not going to use these rails. I'm going to throw these away and cut some new ones. So I think that's probably the best way forward. Let's give that a go. Now, before I refit the rail joiner here, the rail aligner here, sorry, I'm not happy with this approach. It's coming in, it's not coming in at an angle enough. So when I've joined the rail joiner and put the rail on at this side, it's coming over this line where I need to be. So I'm going to change the angle of this. I'm going to start to bend this in sooner, so I'll just do that now. So I've quickly adjusted the angle of this approach coming out of the point, and I've just changed the angle just ever so slightly, but it makes a huge difference, as you can see here, coming down onto the next track, across the rail joiner and into the position. Much easier up to the maximum space I need to leave at the edge of the baseboard. so I'm happy with that. So let's go back to fitting the rail joiner and the piece of track in between. So I'm going to fit this one in a slightly different way. You'll have seen on the other tracks I've put a small piece of joining track here, but it becomes very fiddly, and once you take the sleepers out, it makes the rails move. You can't hold them in place as well. So what I've done, I've put having changed the angle of this, I've now put a bigger piece of track in all the way along, and I've just marked the line that I want with a Sharpie, which you'll see when I take this track off. And what I'm going to do now is, this is where I need to put the rail joiners, and therefore I'm going to take out the 6 sleepers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. So I'm going to take this piece of track off and then take those 6 ties sleepers out, and then put the rail joiners back underneath and do it that way around, rather than messing around with 2 separate pieces of track. Once I've got that in position, I'll then Dremel across that joint, so I know that it's fixed down and it won't move. So I'm going to give it that, trying to do it that way around. I'll take this track back out. There you can see the line that I'm happy with. Much easier doing it that way around. So I've just loosely put the rail aligners back underneath here, and this is roughly the position that I want them to be in. I'm going to attempt now to solder those down. So I've just soldered those. You can see that the heat from the soldering iron does tend to misshape the underlay. If this was on the main track, I'd be not too happy about that, but it's in the fiddle yard, which is going the other side of this batten here. So that's just about cooled off now, and hopefully I pull this track out. Oh no, I can't pull the track out yet. I now need to slit it with the Dremel. So let me just mark where I'm going to Dremel. So literally the line is here. So let's cut these with the Dremel now. I'm now in position. So as you can see, I just went very gently with the Dremel down because I didn't want to cut into the rail aligners. And you do know when you've reached the bottom and cut the rail, because you just see the rail move and feel it move slightly. So I fitted those rail joiners very differently to how I fitted some of these. I'm not sure which the best way is actually after looking at that. The challenge you have when you do with the cut with the Dremel after, when you've glued these in position, is the gap in between these 2 rails is quite big, and I don't know if that's too big. Again, you probably know better than me. If I run an oil tanker across, once that's screwed into position, I might just get away with it, but let me know what you think. So here's an overhead shot of all of the 6 lines making up the fiddle yard. Line 1 right at the top here, I did this, align these rails and put these rail aligners in first. This one I did second, this one I did third, and then I did this one fourth, and then I came and did this one that you've just seen fifth, and I'm going now onto this one, which is the 6th one. I am going to do it in a similar way to the way I did this one, by taking out the 6 sleepers which I've marked here. They might not be coming out on the on the camera. I'll just zoom that in for you. So that's this one here we're looking at. Yeah. So there's some black lines on the sleepers, the 6 sleepers I'm going to take out. What I'm going to do is get the rail joiner and put that one on first. Once I've taken the sleepers out, solder that into position, and once that's in position and soldered, then I will cut the track at that point in time, and then I'll introduce the second one and solder these in position at the same time. So that will allow me to adjust these rails closer so I don't get as big a gap as the one I'm going to have here. So that's my plan. Let's see if it works any better. The rail join is now in position. I've glued it, and I've put 2 tacks in here so it doesn't move. So I'm now going to glue this rail aligner into position. So that's that done. I'm now going to get the Dremel and cut across the line. So wish me luck. This is a slightly different way of doing it. So those are now cut, as you can see. Get you a little bit closer there. That's as close as I can get you. So you can see there's a cut. They're cut on the angle. So the next job then is to fit the rail joiner here. Right, I think it's in position. So we'll go back in with the solder. Fingers crossed. Well, it's in. Will it join together? It will. How big's the gap? It's a fingernail's length. So it's probably what I wanted. I'm going to put some glue on here, tack it down, and then leave it to set. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that because I need to. I'm just going to tack it in position for now. So that's it. That's all 6 tracks of the fiddle yard from the first baseboard, now rail aligned with the Railtech rail aligners in place. Now, if I'm being honest, I've caused myself my own problems here, because with the idea of having the curved turnouts, then the angles coming out the turnouts to try and get into 6 straight tracks takes a little bit of length, and to get those straight they have to cross this baseboard. So I'm coming across with angled tracks, curved turnouts, and therefore having to angle these rail aligners, and they're not built for that. They're built for them being straight. So the next fiddle yard I build on the north side of the layout, I'm going to have a different point network. I'll have straight forward left hand, right hand turnouts, medium radius, code 75, because this is just, for a novice railway modeler, it's just incredibly difficult. And I think I've got everything about right, and once it's screwed in I'm sure it'll be in a good position. But it has been another challenge, and another challenge for another video. So yeah, if you've got experience of using them, as I've said before, please do pass on your comments below. So now it's time for a break, a short break. I'm going to take my dog for a walk because she's going mad downstairs. I keep having to pause the video because she keeps barking. And I'm going to have a bit of a tidy up because I've got every tool out the toolbox, which is usual for me. So I'm going to have a bit of a tidy up and get back into some kind of order.